Alright, welcome to the problem of the week for investigation 3 of moving straight ahead. We're going to get right into it. Number 1 says the cost of buying any number of t-shirts from T-Shirt Mania is represented by the following equation, where C represents the cost and N represents the number of t-shirts purchased. So the equation is C equals 35 plus N, and I wanted to rewrite that here to C equals 1N plus 35, because we want it in the form y equals mx plus b. So c would be your y, n would be your x, and then since there's no coefficient, nothing before the n, the coefficient would just be 1 or 1 over 1, and then plus 35. And we can switch these around because of the commutative property. Now, the first question says, what does the coefficient n represent in this situation? And I want you to be able to figure out what these actually represent with the real situation. So in here the coefficient is 1, the number before the variable, that's the coefficient. And in this situation it represents that it costs $1 for every t-shirt. So if you plug in a 2 here for 2 t-shirts, it'd be $2. And then obviously adding that 35, and that's where B comes in. What does the y-intercept represent in this situation? The y-intercept here is 0, 35, and you get that from the B in your equation. It tells us that you pay $35 no matter how many t-shirts are bought. So that's always added to the total cost. Alright, now the next 6 problems are very much just solving an equation. And that's a lot of what we're doing this week using algebra. If you look at A, it says 10x, and I apologize I have all the writing here already, but if you follow with me, it says 10x minus 7 equals 13. And for each of these you'll see that I put a box around the part that has a variable because we want to isolate those and then use those at the end to solve. Since I put a box around that, I want to get that by itself on the left side of the equal sign, and I have the lines drawn here. So you just add 7 to both sides. So to get rid of this negative 7, you add 7, and you have to do the same thing to the other side, and you end up with 10x equals 20. And now here I already started with the second step, and I did the multiplicative inverse to get rid of that 10, because 1/10 times 10 is just 1. You get 1x over here, and if you do the same thing to the other side, it'll be 20 times 1/10, which 20 times 1 is 20, divided by 10 is 2, and that's saying that x is equal to 2. And you can check that by plugging that back into your equation, and 10 times 2 is 20, minus 7 is truly 13. Okay, B is very similar, only this time we have 2 boxed things here with the x variable. So they're both on the same side, so you can just combine these like terms into 8x. So you have 8 total x, and it's going to be 8x equals 16, using the multiplicative inverse of 1/8 here to get rid of this 8. Multiply both sides by that to end up getting 1x equals 2, so x equals 2. And again, you can check that by plugging it back into your equation. Letter C here, you'll see I boxed the 3x again, and the first thing I want to do is get rid of that minus 3. So you add 3 to both sides, and it's 15 equals 3x. Once you do the multiplicative inverse here, 1/3 of 1/3, that'll end up being 5 is equal to 1x, so x is equal to 5, because 1x is the same as x. And again, you can check that by plugging it back in. And I would suggest to do that just to make sure. That's a good way to check on any time you're given a problem like this. I apologize for here. This is actually D on your paper. It's a little bit messed up on the answer key, but this is D. Same problem. The first thing that we do here is distribute. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 2 is 6. And since there's an addition sign, you add those together. And that's what you get on the left side, and it's still equal to 24. Then you just do the same steps, get rid of that 6 by subtracting 6 from both sides, and then using the multiplicative inverse to get rid of that 3, and you end up with x on one side is equal to 6. Letter E, this is actually E, and this is going to be F. E here, 10x is equal to 8 minus 6x. I boxed that negative 6x. And the difference here is that we have an x on both sides. We have variables on both sides, and we want to get them all on one side so you can solve for it. So instead of doing anything with that 8, because it's not going to really help you to move that, we want to move this box over to this side. So you just add 6x here, and then you add 6x over here, and you end up with a total of 16x is equal to 8. And then again, the multiplicative inverse of 1/16 to both sides gets you x equals 1/2. And the last one here, E, says 4x plus 5 equals 57. Again, I boxed the one with the variable, did the additive inverse here to subtract 5 from both sides, and it's going to give me 4x equals 52. And then I found the multiplicative inverse of 4, which is 1/4, multiplied that together to get 1x over here. Did the same thing over here and ended up with 13. So x is equal to 13. The last problem, 3, is another real-life situation. You go on a vacation and rent a car. The car rental place charges you $50 for the rental plus $25 or $20 per day you have the car. Using this information, you can come up with an equation where y represents the total cost and x is the number of days of the car. So your equation would be y equals 50 plus 20x, or y equals 20x plus 50. And here the 20 is because it's $20 per day, and x is the number of days. So you can plug in any number of days and figure out how many that would be for the total y in the end, adding that $50 charge. And that's where B here, it says where on the graph would the line cross the y-axis, and that's obviously at 0, 50. The reason I rewrote it here is because this is in the form y equals mx plus b. Over here it was just flipped around. The right equation might help you. That's why I rewrote it like this. So you know that the b would be equal to 50, and that's your y-intercept, 0, 50, since b is 50. And that just tells you no matter how long you have the car rented, you will have to pay $50. I apologize that this is cut off here, but it's going to be $50 of a charge no matter what. And then the very last thing, if you were charged $180 for the car rental, we want to know how many days you would have had the car. So since we know that in our equation here the y represents the total cost, we'd plug that 180 in for the total cost of y, and you get 180 is equal to 5x plus 50, or 20x plus 50. I apologize. And you just do the same steps that we did up here. I did the additive inverse to get rid of this 50. I subtracted 50 from both sides. That gives us 130 is equal to 20x. And then using the multiplicative inverse to get rid of this 20 here, 1 over 20, multiplied that to equal just 1x. And multiplied over here, you get 6.5. So x is equal to 6.5. And with the situation here, that would tell you that it takes, if you pay $180, you'd have to have it for 6.5 days total. That's where that x comes in. Now I hope this answer key helped. If you have any questions, make sure you ask Mr. Thorough or Mr. Pouts, and have a great rest of your day.